Hello! In this video we're going to start covering different selection tools. We're going to start off with using our most basic selection tools. Uh, Actually, the most basic selection tools are these rectangular or marquee selection tools. I'll start off with the rectangular marquee tool. With this tool, you basically, on your file, say for example, I want to copy this dancer right here. If I just click and drag with my mouse, it's just making a rectangular selection. You can see that I now have these different marching ants. Now, one thing to keep in mind with our different selections is that it's isolating this area. A selection kind of only affects the area that is selected on the inside. So for example, if I go to my brush tool and I have black selected, and if I start to draw, it's only going to stay within my selection. So it won't go beyond that. I'm going to undo because I don't want this right now. I'm going to undo this. And let me go back to my selection. I'm going to go to Marquee Selection tool. I'm going to deselect this. I'm going to go under Select. I'm going to go to Deselect or Command or Control D. And this time with this tool, I want to talk about feather. Feather by default is set to 0. A 0 feather means it's going to give you a hard edge. So with this tool, if I want to make a round selection, notice that with this tool, as you click, you're going from one corner to the opposite corner to make your circle. And so you kind of have to be precise if you want to get it around this dancer. But what you could also do, I'm going to go Edit, Deselect. If you hold down Option or Alt, and then if you click, it's creating the circle from its center. If you hold down Shift, it'll make a perfect circle. So I'm holding down both of these buttons. I'm holding down Option Alt and also Shift. Option Alt to put it at its center, and Shift to be able to create a perfect circle. Once I let go, if we're going to let go, make sure that you let go of the mouse button first before you let go of your two keyboard shortcuts. So now that I have this, now that I have a selection, it's still a selection. I still have these marching ants. If I want to, I'm going to now switch to my Lasso tool. This tool, and instead of getting rid of this one, instead of deselecting it, I could either add to it or I could subtract. I'm going to go ahead and click on this button. This is now specifically only adding to my selection. So even if I go right here, this is added to my selection, even though they're not connected. What you're also able to do, you're also able to use keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to go back to the basic mode, where with this basic mode, if I was to make a new selection, whatever selection you had previously is now gone. So if I make a selection right here, for example, this is now the current selection. Keyboard shortcuts. Instead of clicking up here, if you press and hold down Shift, notice how you get a little plus sign on the bottom right hand corner of your cursor. This is now adding to my selection. So you can see how I'm making this one grow. Or keyboard shortcut, if I press and hold down Option Alt, this is turning on this button right here. So you can see I get a little minus on the bottom right hand cursor. I'm going to hold down Option Alt, and you can see that I'm able to refine this one. And notice what I'm doing. I'm just going right here, but I'm making sure to come back around so I could separate that area. Now for this one, this is the overlap, meaning that where our two selections overlap, that's the only area that I want to keep. So I could do something like this, and only the areas that they're overlapping keep. So I'm going to go back to my normal selection mode. I'm going to hold down Option Alt to get rid of this little area just to keep that selection. But this is just working with selections. We are selecting an area. So these are the most basic of the selection tools. Going forward, we're going to use more tools to make better refinements. Look at the detail right here. Yes, you could make a selection. Here, let's focus on one of these dancers. Say I want to focus just on this dancer's head. I'm going to make a selection right here. And what I could do once I made a selection, because I have my background layer selected, I need to talk about background in a moment. In fact, I'll do this right now. Since I have this area selected, and instead of, I'm going to first start off going to Edit, Copy. It's copying that information. If I go to Edit, Paste, it's pasting that information on a new layer. So if I look closely right here, I have this information. So I'm going to come back to the background in a moment. But on this layer, what you could do, and I've seen many students that are new to Photoshop do this, that, okay, I want to isolate the head. Let me go ahead and use the eraser tool, and let me zoom in. Let me make my eraser either larger or smaller, and let me go ahead and start erasing. And you know what? This is effective. You could use this, but one of the things that's happening right now is that I'm actually getting rid of these pixels. What if I later decide that, hey, I actually want those pixels back because I want to have more than just a floating head? Well, you just erase those pixels on this layer. Hopefully you still have access to the original image, but these pixels are now gone. So yes, you are able to do something like this, but I want to show you other methods that might be better suited to being able to isolate these pixels. So, but this is a method. Now, what happens if oops, I just, yeah, technically right now I could undo, but what if I save this and came back to it? Those pixels are gone. I want to be able to bring that information back. Uh, but here, let's go back. Let me hide this layer. I'm going to bring back my background layer. And say, for example, what if I'm going to select my background layer? I'm going to go ahead and make another selection. Here, let's select this dancer this time around. I'm going to make a quick selection. I have this right here. Now, instead of selecting Edit, Copy, what if I did Edit, Cut? Before I do this, I want to talk about what's going on. This is the background layer. The background is a special layer. Notice that it has this little lock. This is the bottommost layer in your Photoshop document. You can't go anything underneath it. So right now, for my background and foreground colors, I have the default, which is black for the foreground, white as a background. I want to change the background color. If I click right here, this little box where it's white, I'm going to click on it. It brings up the color picker. This allows you to select a color. To select a color, sometimes I like to select the hue first. So if I bring this meter up and down, I haven't selected a color. Notice that I have this little circle right here. This is the color where it says current and my new color. So I want a blue color. Now what you're able to do, this going from left to right is your saturation. All the way on the left is no saturation. All the way to the right we have full saturation. Going from the top, it's a lighter color. Going down, it's a darker color. So if I want black, I go all the way to the bottom corner, left-hand corner. But here, I want kind of like a sky blue. So maybe I want something like this. A nice vibrant sky. You're always able to change the value. Notice these little exclamation points. These are warnings in that the color that you have selected, if you're trying to reproduce it in, like say on your printer, this color is out of that range. You will not be able to reproduce this color, but on your display, you could see that color because your display is capable of reproducing a lot more colors than what you could actually see. That you could actually reproduce on your printer. Excuse me. Other options, if you have the HSB values, you could enter that lab, LAB, RGB, CMYK, or hexadecimal. So I'm going to select this one. This is a new color. That was the previous current color. I'm going to tell it OK. So now my background color is blue. Now check this out. If I was to go to Edit, not Copy, but Cut, I cut this area out, and since this is the bottommost layer, I get whatever my background color is. Now I'm going to temporarily undo this. I'm going to go Edit, Undo. Instead, what I want to do, I want to convert my background layer to a regular layer. And to do this is really simple. Just double click on it. Double click. Click, click. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call this my original image. I'm going to tell it OK. And notice that that lock is gone. And this is now a regular layer. If I was to go back and tell it Edit, Cut, Notice that we now see this little pixel grid that tells us that these are transparent pixels, and we can now see through it. I don't necessarily want to do this at this time because I don't want to cut my original image. I might want to make a copy. But we're going to continue to go over how to make selections using our different selection tools. So we will go over how to refine this, but know that using the Lasso tool, oh, we didn't talk about the Polygon Lasso tool, but we have covered this previously in the course. With the Polygon Lasso, you kind of just click, click, click until you come back around to make your selection. So my feather, I'm going to drop this down to 0 just so I could have a harder selection. I'm going to press Command or Control D to deselect it. And this gives me a base type of selection. But I want to go over tools that help me make a better selection. So we'll cover those in our next video where we start going over the object selection tool. So I'll see you there.